Good morning or afternoon, everyone, depending on where you're located. Welcome back to our third episode of our Stage 300 webinar series, Working in the New Normal. If you missed the previous two episodes, no need to worry because we focus on a different topic that can help take your business from surviving to thriving. But if you want to see what you missed, you can always check out our YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Stephen Phelps. I'm the marketing manager for Acumen, and I'm here with Nick DeBosny, who heads up our pre-sales team, and Ian Cook, who is our VP of Account Management. This week's topic is improving performance with enhanced visibility, and we will show you how adding visibility to every facet of your business is key to working in the new normal. Please be aware that all attendees will be in listen-only mode, and the duration of this session should be around 1 hour long. If you have any questions, please write them in the chat option, and we will answer them after each solution demo. So with that being said, we'll move along to the agenda. Thank you, Nick. So with how crazy the world is right now, many of our clients are looking for new ways on how they can make smarter decisions when it comes to planning and managing their resources. So throughout the presentation, we'll review the importance of analyzing key business metrics and answer a few key questions, starting with why do we need visibility? What parts of a business can benefit from visibility? And how do clients get better visibility of their data? And then we'll go into solution demos with Nick and Ann. So let's go ahead and get started, and I will now hand it over to Nick.
Thanks very much, Stephen, and thank you everyone for attending this afternoon. And as Stephen said, we're going to talk about visibility and why do we need that? Well, really, with such a big group on the call and people in various different levels of the organization, I can see some owners, some decision makers, some team leaders. Well, in today's world, visibility of different levels or aspects of your organization is really more critical now than it may have ever been in our lifetimes, right? We're making decisions faster, we're making more decisions, we're making harder and tougher decisions now. Kind of keeping up with the new norm. Well, the need to, or the ability to know who's working on what and to see and manage the capacity and momentum of a person or even a team within your organization has become critical. To view and receive access to critical information at the right time has never been more important, right? Even if that's just getting a report delivered to you now instead of running it or waiting for it, just having it at your fingertips when you need that information. And all this is really going to allow you to better understand performance of people, of customers, items, products, every aspect of your business in this changing landscape. Now, what parts of a business can improve with better visibility? Well, this is I said it last week, this is our trick question because really all parts can. And we're going to focus on a few today, and these are very similar to what we did last week, but we're going to talk about how we've helped some people in the sales team and the accounting and purchasing or back office teams get better visibility, and then also take a look at how we've implemented some solutions for the operations team to get some better visibility over inventory today. So really the entire organization can benefit from it. It is crucially important. And so we're going to start today with a look at Sage CRM. And so now, why would someone want to implement Sage CRM? Well, we've just recently helped clients do this, a few different ones actually, for various different reasons. One really wanted to look at, have a better control or visibility of the entire customer life cycle from the beginning of being a lead or a prospect all the way through to, a long-term relationship, including contracts and things like that. And another client we helped with wanted to mobilize their sales force, but also in their industry, vendor management was extremely important. And I know this is called CRM or customer relationship management, but with Sage CRM and the links to Sage 300, this will integrate very nicely for accounts payable and vendors. So tracking documents, tracking contracts, all those types of things for your vendors becomes very easy and allows visibility across the organization. And then we're going to take a look at some different ways to track progress. And we're going to look at a pipeline of opportunities. We're going to look at a pipeline of customer service incidences or cases. And then lastly, we're going to look at some reports and talk about some marketing and sales metrics. And then we'll take a break for some questions. So with that, I'm going to pop over to Sage CRM. And here I'm looking at my CRM dashboard, and I'm logged in as the admin user. I'm on the sales team here, so I might want to take a look at sales metrics for managers. And you can see there's a whole bunch of different types or templates of dashboards that you can use to populate information. So this is just a sample of it, that I'm interested in looking at for my sales team. Now the widgets or the gadgets, as we call them, can be chosen and built as necessary. Each user can have a very different look and feel on their dashboard. But again, as soon as I log in, I'm getting visibility of that information. What is our sales versus target? Well, looks like we're doing really well here. What's our average deal close rate for each person? Well, I might need to ring Brian Little here because Brian's not really keeping up with the rest of the team and see what's going on. So, almost immediately I can spot some information and make some decisions right from there. Now, Sage CRM is, as I said, going to give us visibility of the customer lifecycle, right? From the beginning for opportunities all the way through to, a long-lasting customer. Well, there's a few kind of ways I like to show that. And one is, let's just go over and take a look at a company in CRM here. So I'm going to pull up a company called Gatecom. This is one of our sample companies. And you can see that, I have all the relevant information that I have here that I need. Who is my main contact? Where are they? How many offices? All those types of things. And all of this information is customizable. When I'm working with a customer, though, I love to use this quick look tab here because I get visibility into a bigger or larger picture for this customer. So if I'm going to speak with our contact Simon here, very quickly, I can see the last 4 communications we've had. So I've seen a few emails going out. I see that we did a demo for them. And then also, someone spoke with Simon to touch base on any other opportunities. I can see the status of the other opportunities, the last 4 that we've been working on with them, where they are in the process, what priority they are, which territory of ours or which team of ours is working on that. And then I can also see the customer service issues or cases, the last 4 here. So, before I pick up the phone or as soon as he calls in and I launch this, I have some immediate information or visibility into our relationship with Simon. And it just completely changes my interaction with him because I now know what's going on as an account manager, as an owner of a business, as a head salesperson or a sales manager that may not be directly involved with this account, but maybe there's a reason it's getting escalated to me. So, that's one of my favorite tools in Sage CRM because I get that larger picture, right? Now, we also have, this is connected to Sage 300, of course. So if we were to look at a customer who is also a Sage 300 customer, my sales team or my customer service team could get some visibility into Sage 300 information. So I can click on AR inquiry and I can see what this customer owes. I can see different transactions that are posted through to Sage, and I can see that for order entry, for AR, for service manager, for jobs. So I have, a lot of the Sage 300 information available to my sales or customer service team or really non-Sage 300 users. As long as they have a Sage CRM license, they can get access to that really, really important information. Now, a few other things I said, right? We want to also get some visibility of what our sales team's doing, right? So, I like to use the team CRM section here in Sage CRM to watch or manage some of my team, here at the organization. So we might say, okay, let's look at opportunities here. Well, I can see that my operations team isn't selling anything. So let's take a look at the direct sales team here. And there we go. Now I have a pipeline of all of my 121 opportunities that are going on in the system. And I can see what stage we're at. I can see that we've only agreed one of them out of 121. So I need to start making some phone calls to my demo team here. But if I want to look at, which of the ones are proposals submitted here, I can click on that and get access to that instantaneously. So again, I have very clear visibility now into what the direct sales team is doing, what that forecast might look like, and I have information that I can start to use to make some decisions very, very quickly. A very similar thing happens for customer service, right? Because getting new customers in is critical, but keeping the customers happy and keeping them engaged is just as important. So if we're dropping the ball on cases here or customer service issues, we may not ever get a second sale from this particular customer. So here I can see a pipeline, again, a visual way to look at all the different cases. And I can see here, much like my sales team, we've only solved a couple of the 50 cases here. So we need to get some help or get on the phone here and start solving some of these here at Sample Company Inc. But, I can see, what are we waiting for on these two? Is there something I can jump in and help with? Or, what's going on? These are just queued up and haven't been assigned. They're in the queue stage. So, and these stages that you see here in the sample data are just examples. And, if you did implement Sage CRM, we would make the processes or the stages or the steps match your process for sales and your process for customer service cases as well. So, and then lastly, we need some visibility for reports and marketing, right? So what's going on, in the system, maybe let's take a look at monthly sales trends here. So there are all kinds of reports built into CRM that can be run to provide me, really good information about what my team's doing, what trends are happening, what should I expect to happen later this year as, I watch things happen in real time here. So I'm getting my team to start to fill in CRM, and then they're starting to rely on CRM, and they're using it. I'm using it. The entire organization's using it to get visibility of that customer life cycle again. And then lastly, the marketing section would allow me to, take a look at what's working, see what campaigns are happening, see what campaigns are costing us and what campaigns, turn into revenue ultimately, because that's the goal, right? Is we're spending money on marketing to generate revenue. So, by putting that whole picture together, I get some good visibility again into, what's going on with sales and marketing. Okay, with that, let's take a quick pause here, Steve, and see if any questions came in on Sage CRM.
Thanks, Nick. So at this time, we'll open up the chat option for any questions. It did look like one or two questions came in. The first one is Sage CRM a web-based application?
Oh, okay. So Sage CRM is, it does take advantage of web screens, right? So, and I can run it in a browser. I would install something on your server where your Sage 300 is. And if that's hosted, of course, this can be hosted as well. It can be completely cloud-based if you'd like. But, I would use a browser to access Sage CRM, which means I can do it on any device that has a browser, including a mobile device if I wanted to. So great question.
Thanks, Nick. And then it looks like we have one more. It says, does Sage CRM integrate with an e-marketing or campaign solution?
It does. It does. So we talked about the integration with Sage 300 to pull information back and forth for customers, for vendors, for sales information. But here in the marketing section, if we look at e-marketing, there's a direct integration with MailChimp. So, again, if we connect the two, we start to send information out. I can see in MailChimp, I can get visibility again, to use our kind of word of the day, to see what's working and what emails, who's opening what, and what traction we're getting for certain campaigns. And then as those turn into opportunities, we mark that through the process here in CRM. So, yes, MailChimp is one out of the box that is directly integrated with Sage CRM.
Thanks, Nick. It looks like that's all the questions that came in for this section, so I think we can move on to document management.
Okay. let's go back to our PowerPoint here. Okay, so the next area that I'd like to talk about, for enhancing or gaining better visibility of the organization is paper and documents, right? So, the days of kind of filing everything in filing cabinets and going to get them, especially with us, lots of us working remotely now, those are kind of fading away and very quickly, if I might add. So, the need to store the documents in a system that has easy access, right? The need to route things around for approval without having to physically send those around. The need for the system to be able to read the documents using something like OCR is gone through the roof now. So I'm going to talk about two different options today that are in our kind of document management suite. Last week, I talked about two options that were kind of web stores, and there were 5 or 6 that I put on the slide. Similar thing here. There's quite a few different options, and I'm going to talk about 2 that we've recently implemented and 2 of our favorites, that we've had a lot of happy customers on. So the first is Alltech DocLink. And I would call that more of a robust or a full document management suite. And, Alltech's going to bring to the table things like workflow routing of documents, optical character recognition, so enhanced searching for AP invoices all the way through to maybe contracts if you wanted that to be read through the system. The ability to easily calculate month-end accruals to see what's open and unapproved but sitting in the payables queue. The ability to see AP information that includes purchase order details for doing 3-way matching. And then lastly, the ability to do things like to add smart forms and to just take a form like an onboarding checklist or an HR document for a new hire or a contract that might be routed for approval for different teams within our organization and also then used with DocuSign. I want to be able to see those. I want the system to read those. I want to be able to search on all of those types of documents. Well, Alltech has a solution for all of those, all those types of things. And if we take a quick look here, I'm going to jump back just to AP, right, to talk through that. But please note that, all of this really rings true for an HR document or a contract for a sales order or an onboarding, a smart form that we set up for a new customer. So, the same is true for any of those types of documents. And I can truly take any piece of paper I have sitting on my desk and turn it into a smart form or something that would be scanned or stored in a document management system. So the image on the right here is a kind of typical AP life cycle, right? So an invoice would come in, we would open the mail, we would go get the PO, we might route the mail through inner office, we might code it to the right GL, we might go get a physical signature for approval on the piece of paper, make sure we have the budget to pay for it. So we might do all that manually. Well, talking about visibility, well, again, I can't see when it's stuck on, Ian's desk because Ian's not in our office, right? So if I have it in a system like Alltech, I gain visibility of that instantly. So now that invoice comes in electronically, or I scan it and drop it in. The PO details are pulled through automatically. So I can see for 3-way matching, I can see has this been received without ever, leaving my desk. Now the code can come through as well. We can use OCR technology to actually read it and pull through any information we need to. When it's in the approval console, we can see the status of the invoice at any time. Whoever has it, I can see if it's stuck at, with Ian, or if Ian's on vacation and it's now been transferred over to Stephen, and if that's who I need to follow up with to get this kind of moved through. I can see during my workflow process if we have budget available, to be able to process this through, or have we spent everything we've already planned for this particular project, this business line, this cost center, whatever that might be. Then next it gets approved, right, and entered into the system, and then we're going to pay it with a check. Well, if I'm doing a lookup later, I might want to see that it has been paid. Well, I can see that right in the document management system. I can click on the invoice, open it up from Sage, and I can see the invoice, any PO related documents, receivers, purchase orders. I could see, a picture of the check that it was paid with. So I get all that information really in just a click right there for me. Any notes, I can see the approval, what it's gone through, who's approved it, who's looked at it, who's edited it, who's made comments on it. So all of that is instantly available and visible to me in the system. And then lastly, when I'm doing a filing or research, I'm not sticking it in a cabinet anymore. It's getting filed in electronically, right? So retrieval now using the search engine. If it's gone through the OCR engine, I can search for, any text on the document itself, whether that's an invoice again, or maybe a contract or an HR document. So that makes it very, very easy to find information. So that's just a sample of an AP invoice and how it would work through Alltech. Now, another kind of document management, and this is more of a suite of tools. But we like to use it a lot for document management and notes. But this is called Orchid Info Manager. And as you can see here, it's a suite of smaller modules that were all written by a company called Orchid. And I can see a lot of the attendees on here probably have one or two Orchid modules already. They are by far one of our favorite third-party vendors out there and have been around the Sage ecosystem for many, many years. Well, this one, Info Manager, fit very nicely into our discussion today on visibility because I might want to see notes about a customer. I might want to, have some documents attached to maybe a journal entry or a sales order, not AP, right? Forget AP for a moment, which is certainly possible with Info Manager, but, I may want to have a bank statement attached to my bank rec in Sage 300 so I can look up the PDF, 6 months down the road if I wanted to. And then Report Runner is a great tool to push information in real time. Run a report or a group of reports and have it distributed via email to the right people. And again, kind of just getting that information to the right people at the right time and having more visibility. Optional tables and views, those tools allow you to store custom data. So if there's some fields or some information about your business, your customers, your industry that's required to be stored in the system, these are great tools to add to do that without extra programming and things like that. That allows us to just build them, attach them into Sage as if they were Sage tables. And then of course, all that information is visible and available for reporting. And then lastly, the email smart link tool will allow me to initiate emails from within Sage 300 with a link to an active record. So if I need to say, hey, Ian, please check out this customer or this order for me, what's going on with this, I can send that directly from Info Manager using this email smart link module. So I'm going to jump over to my Sage for a moment and we'll take a look at some samples of Info Manager here. So if I come over to my Sage, and I launch my sales order entry screen here, you can see that I'm looking at order number 1, and you can see that this is for Ronald Black here. This is a posted order, so it's grayed out for me. I can see, I can't change all of the main things here, but what I'd like to point out is this box that's floating over here on the right, and this is the Orchid Info Manager suite, including notes, including some alerts, including some document management link as well. So here I can see, just an alert actually, which is telling me the total sales for this customer. So right when I'm taking this order, I have some really important information brought to my attention. I can see an audit trail here. If I combine this with Extender, which we talked about in a previous webinar, I can have it, tell me right here that admin changed the customer's credit limit. So I need to make sure that we're not going to go over that. I can see some files that are saved in the system for this particular customer. So if I wanted to launch that file, I can open it up and see a copy of that particular invoice. I can see, some specific information about this customer and this item, how many of these mini fluorescent bulbs have they purchased? How many bulletin boards have they purchased? So now I'm starting to get information where, right at my fingertips again, and where I don't have to drill in and dig too far to see some information. So customer says, what did I pay last time? Well, it was $25 for that last time. Right on the phone, I can answer some of those questions. And then, just lastly, here's some additional documents, but, this was pretty neat. We did an order for this particular customer, but let's say it had 100 lines on it. So we used an Acumen tool to build that import. So we did that. We did some calculations. We did a quote, and then we uploaded it to the system, which worked very, very well. Well, I just added that Acumen tool, or I saved it in there so that we could see it or launch it later. So here is that Acumen tool that was uploaded to build that order in the system. So, that was a combination of things, but I saved the PDFs, I saved Excel files, I can do pictures, I can do hyperlinks, but getting all of that information, to my users in real time was really, really important. Okay, so let's stop there for a moment and see if there's any questions on document management solutions. Stephen, anything come in?
Yes, so we actually have a few questions that came in. First one is, will Info Manager work with third-party modules?
It does, yes. So any of the modules that are built in the SDK, or the software development kit, which means they would have to look and feel like Sage 300. So Orchid modules, Tyrox modules, Technosoft modules, all of those different modules will work with Extender, with Info Manager. So anything you would see in the Sage tree like this.
Thanks, Nick. Another one, can we import data from a document in Alltech to Sage 300?
Yes. So the process we talked about, right, accounts payable workflow, that would happen automatically, right? So an approved AP invoice would automatically end up as an AP invoice in Sage 300. But for lots of clients, we do other things. We've said, okay, maybe we do a check request form or a smart form, and that gets routed for approval and ends up as an AP miscellaneous payment. Maybe you have a new hire form that goes through the workflow. Ian's new on board. It goes here first, and someone sets up his email, and then ultimately we got to get him set up in payroll, right? So that can happen automatically. So I can approve it on the workflow and automatically have a new employee created. So we've done that many times in many different areas of the system. So that's absolutely something we can help with.
Thanks, Nick. And then I think we have one more question, and I think it was when you were doing the Orchid demo. It says, can you upload Outlook email files to this screen?
If I save the email, I can attach it here like a PDF. So I'd have to drag it out and save it first, but then I am able to attach it here.
Perfect, thanks.
We certainly can follow up and see if there's something else to answer there.
And it looks like we have one more question that came in. It says, does Orchid Report Runner provide an interface for users to set up the need reports to create some dashboard?
It's not so much a tool for dashboarding as it is for running reports on demand. Well, sorry, running reports on a schedule and less on demand. So I have it delivered to me every Monday morning rather than me remembering to run it. Actually, though, that's a fantastic segue because Ian is going to speak about business intelligence, and he's going to cover a bunch of different dashboarding options. So, but I would say Report Runner is, instead of me running these 10 reports that I need for month end, I have a grouping of them, and I just have it scheduled to run. It takes away that need for me to run it, and also kind of provides the information to me or my group of users via email, when they need it most.
Perfect. So I think that's all the questions we have for this section. So I think we can move on to Ian with business intelligence.
Okay, I'm going to stop my sharing here and hand it over to Ian.
All right. I have the good fortune this afternoon to be able to talk to you about two different kinds of problems that we have, particularly the visibility of data generally to the organization to be able to support decision making and a whole host of other reasons. And then we'll go ahead and move on from that, and we'll talk about inventory management and how you can really, particularly in this, whatever normal is going to look like after this, how we can go ahead and get a better grip on our inventory. So those are our two primary focuses. So what problems do our customers face when they're not using business intelligence? Well, these are not my numbers. These are actually just standard survey numbers. It says that 47%, almost half of mid-sized businesses agree that they're having too many decisions that are based on inaccurate or incomplete data. That's, they're running standard crystal reports. They're trying to go ahead and do things that might be out of date. People might be out of the office and not be able to go ahead and deliver reports that they would normally have. So a massive half of them are making decisions based on improper data. And supporting that, 90% of the people that have to make the decisions are saying that they don't have what they need when they need to do it. So when you combine those two factors together, that means that a huge amount of mid-sized businesses are making decisions either late, when they could have gone ahead and made a more profitable decision or lost an opportunity to do something, or they're making a wrong decision or one that's costing them money. Not a good situation to be in today as a small business owner. So how does business intelligence help with these problems? Well, the whole purpose of a business intelligence platform is to streamline the complex task of repetitively combining data from different sources. So many of you, I know, have written many different crystal reports or using different analyses, and then you spend countless hours every single month going ahead and trying to combine all of those various things with VLOOKUPs in Excel, or being able to go ahead and combine information into a financial statement that's coming from trial balances, any host of reasons. So with Business Intelligence Platform, you really have confidence that what you have is current and accurate and is available at your fingertips. So basically what we like to call that is a single source of truth. Some of the questions that were asked by people typically are, can I do dashboarding? Absolutely. A business intelligence platform fundamentally is dealing with dashboards. And in fact, that was the question in the last segment that we just had about being able to do dashboarding. We're certainly going to look at that. People want, in an increased culture of people working remotely, want to be able to get information from anywhere, from their home, on a mobile device, at any time of day. With kids having to be out of school right now as well, more and more people are having to balance that work, work and kid structure or time. And so work might now take place on the couch with an iPad later in the evening instead of at a laptop or a workstation during the day. So it's critically important to be able to allow people to be able to do that. Similarly, we want reporting and inquiry capabilities. And of course, our good old friend Excel. What would any of us do without Excel? People still want to be able to use that for their needs as well. So what we're going to look at today are three different solutions that vary pretty dramatically in scope and size, starting with Info Explorer, and then looking at Sage Intelligence, and lastly, what we call Sage Enterprise Intelligence. So I'm going to start off by looking at Info Explorer with us. So Info Explorer is a cube design product, as we call it, and any one cube, I'm looking at a project and job costing cube, for example, allows us to go ahead and replace many different crystal reports with a single cube. And of course, as we would expect from any of these screens in a business intelligence solution, if we need the ability to be able to drill down to Sage data, we can absolutely do that through the Info Explorer product. Similarly, because I've said that one data query, instead of having a separate data query for every single report, we can leverage the same data query repeatedly with Info Explorer. I can have different views of the data. So in this particular case, I just have revenue broken out by my projects. And then I have a breakdown that shows the individual transactions that there are in a tabular format. And lastly, one that's broken out by contract. And you can see that all of these other fields that would be available to me in my query design, I can drop those in on the fly. So let's have a look at a sales example and see what that would look like. So in my order entry dashboard, I've got 4 different KPIs or 4 different widgets or views that I'm looking at. Although on the left-hand side menu here, you can see that I've actually got 6 potentially that I could use. And one of those that we're not using in our dashboard is actually this OE sales by item category. Let's click through on that. And as I do so, I'm given this, this view. And if I quickly wanted to be able to modify this and save it in a different way, I have capabilities of copying this view. That's the first thing I can do. And then I can go ahead and modify this on the fly. So instead of looking at my categories of inventory, maybe I want to look at my items. And I want to have a look, let's throw away category. I really don't care about that for this exercise. And maybe I want to see which salespeople are selling these items. And maybe I want to know, are they doing a good job of protecting our profitability as an organization? So I've got the net sales, but I want to know what kind of margin we're looking at. So let's drop the margin in as well. Now, as we do that took me, just a few seconds to be able to go ahead and write a whole new report, which in Crystal would probably take you several hours, even if you started with an existing report and changed your grouping and were to go ahead and change your formulae to do things and put some highlights in there. And then the last thing I want to do, this has already got some highlighting done. If I wanted to be able to go ahead and design highlighting, I can click through to look at the particular field, and I've got a styles overlay, as we call it. And you can see here that I've got particular rules that apply to my margin percentages. So if it's less than 50%, or it's got one kind of highlighting, 50 to 60, it's got another highlight, and so on and so forth. So very simple, very effective to be able to go ahead and create different reports on that. And of course, as you can see from my example, you can open up many, many different tabs and have them all going at the same time during the day, depending on what your needs are. So you've got your project and job costing information, you got your order entry information, and so on and so forth. So that's a super, super high level overview, Info Explorer. Just one other little thing I probably should touch on. You can see at the top of my screen here, I have the ability to export this data either to a CSV file or to HTML, or directly to Excel as well. So even though I'm working in a Cube Explorer and Designer, I can still go ahead and save that data and distribute it to somebody else in the organization as an Excel attachment or a CSV attachment for them. Next, we're going to look at the promised Sage Intelligence. So Sage Intelligence is actually native to Sage 300. It's built right into your product, and it has pretty sophisticated layers of data to be able to allow you to manage security around the product. You can actually go ahead and restrict certain people from seeing certain kinds of data, which obviously would be important if you've got payroll data or you've got people working in teams and they don't need to be able to see the costs which are being applied to the other parts of the organization. Certain companies may have a different cost policy or pricing policy based on certain regions of the country. So absolutely, you can constrain people with Sage Intelligence from being able to do that. Within the report manager, we also have the ability to schedule reports. That's a nice feature. So we can actually go ahead and choose to run reports at certain times of the week, at certain times of the month, repeatedly during the day. And those reports, when they're refreshed, can automatically be emailed to people through add-ins, or they can be saved in a particular file location with a dynamic naming convention showing what date and what data version that report was run with. So it isn't automatically required to overwrite the same report repeatedly. Particularly important with financial statements, of course, where you might want to go ahead and have this run and you want it to dynamically save the month to which that financial statement pertains. So when you actually run the reports out, you end up back in Excel. And here's an example, unlike the Info Explorer cube that we were looking at just now, The advantage that you have with Sage Intelligence is that you can combine multiple sources of data in one screen. So in this particular case, I'm looking at financial snapshots from my profit and loss. I'm looking at my expenses, customers, items, and so on and so forth. And of course, similarly to Info Explorer, we still have the ability to drill down to source transactions. In terms of usability, product is super easy to use. Built into the Sage Intelligence platform are what we call these lists on our task pane in Excel. So if I'm trying to build a report quickly and I know that I need to get certain information about my accounts, it's as simple as clicking and dragging into Excel to drop my chart of accounts. Or similarly, to go ahead and grab my account groups and drop those in there. Perhaps I want to use my account groups in my reporting, particularly useful when I'm doing a balance sheet. So I can do that. A few other little tricks that we have with this product are that based on account numbers, we can design trees, which go ahead and overlay certain parts of account numbers. So we may have an account number that is consistent except for a department or a region within our account numbers. So with reporting trees, we can absolutely go ahead and say which part of an account number is pertinent to this tree. And then when we copy a column, all we have to do is modify the tree name, and it automatically goes ahead and inherits those characteristics and gives us a whole different column that pertains to that part of my business. Of course, like any good financial reporting tool, or this isn't just financial reporting, but for the purposes of financial statements, we would want to be sure that if we added new account numbers, that we could include those as well. And that, of course, we also do dynamic ranges. So rather than having a fixed Excel spreadsheet, we can design a report in such a way that an entire section will grow in length dependent upon the number of accounts that there are within it. So very flexible tool. You can expose any of the modules that are available through Sage 300, plus any other data sources in your organization to which you have access via what we call an ODBC driver. So that would be things like your sales data, potentially if it was in-house, or anything else at all that you could actually get at to report, we can use through that Sage 300 business intelligence platform. The last thing that I want to look at with you, and forgive me for PowerPointing you to death, but I want to talk about Sage Enterprise Intelligence. So I'd mentioned that business intelligence solutions are scalable. This is definitely the higher end of the Sage and of the business intelligence platforms. So Sage Enterprise Intelligence normally recommended that this is used when you're a large company and you actually have a data warehouse. So you've got a number of different queries that might be reading from different data sources. This is always a good way to go if you have historic data from a legacy system that you need to be able to combine. You can put it into a data warehouse, and then using a reporting platform, you can get access to that data. So in this particular example, again, we're looking at what would be a 360-degree view of a day in the life of the CFO of an organization and all of the various graphs and charts and widgets that they may need to be successful in that role. Moving on, we spoke earlier on about ensuring that anything can be accessed from anywhere at any time. And as you would expect, Sage Enterprise Intelligence works in a web browser, similarly to what Nick was talking about with CRM earlier on, but you can still design your own dashboards and your own look and feel to your data in that web view. Of course, there are those of us that still love Excel. So absolutely, with Sage Enterprise Intelligence, we can still go back to Old Faithful and we can use our Sage Enterprise Intelligence data directly in Excel as well. And like all good enterprise intelligence level platforms, we want to be able to ensure that people can use standardized views, but they can also do their own thing. So increasingly important is collaboration, particularly, again, remotely, when you can't just walk across the office and ask somebody a question about something. And of course, you want to be able to do budgeting and forecasting at a greater level as well. So all of these solutions that we've discussed allow you to get information out about budgeting, about forecasting, and to collaborate with each other successfully. So I'll pause at that point and see if we've got any questions.
Thanks, Ian. It looks like we had a few questions that came in with Info Explorer. So we'll start off with those. It says, can you automatically update Info Explorer?
Yes, you can. Yes, actually, it requires an add-on to be able to do it, which is why it's a lower end product. But another product by our friends at Orchid is called Process Scheduler. And so Process Scheduler allows you to automate most things within your Sage 300 environment, and particularly the refresh of Info Explorer cubes.
Thank you. The second one was, will I be able to see inventory data when with Info Explorer?
Absolutely. Yes, you can. In fact, we didn't look at it today, but there are already some pre-built cubes. There are probably 20 or so pre-built cubes that look at various parts of data that would be typically used by a Sage 300 company, and inventory control is absolutely one of those.
Thank you. The third question, which I like, it says, how do I know which business intelligence product we should use?
Okay, that's a very good question. This isn't a trick question, I hope. What we would do is we would say you'd need to speak to your account manager, and we would have a conversation with you about your particular needs. Certainly, if you're looking at being able to do things, you know, all working from home with a high level organization with complex needs, you're probably more at the Sage Intelligence or Sage Enterprise Intelligence level. If you're a company with somebody working in the office who wants to be able to dynamically get some answers, you're probably at the lower end. So maybe you're an Info Explorer candidate or a Sage Intelligence. But I would encourage you to reach out to your account manager, and then we can have some more in-depth conversations about exactly, you know, the scalability of the solution for your needs.
Thanks. And it looks like we had one more question before we move on. It says, does Acumen provide support in SEI implementation?
We do, yes. I mean, anything that we're showing on these webinars, we do support, and it's a standard part of our arsenal. Nick and I have actually gone through pretty significantly, and we continue to do so, looking at what solutions we can offer to our client base, and of course, to ensure that we can back that up with quality support.
Perfect. I think that's all the questions we have for this section, so we can move on to Sage Inventory Advisor.
Great. Thank you, Stephen. So Sage Inventory Advisor is a connected service to Sage 300 ERP. You'll notice again that I'm in a cloud, in a web browser. Many of the solutions that we're looking at today are web browser driven. We want to be able to ensure that the whole theme for today was visibility. So we're all about making sure that even when you're out of your office and you're working from home, that you're able to go ahead and use any device, anywhere, to have visibility to what you would normally expect if you could walk around in the office and find out in person what you were looking for. So the folks at Sage Inventory Advisor are extraordinarily experienced with regard to inventory optimization, supply chain management, and they've been around since about the 1980s individually. And then in 2009, I think it was about 2009, they came together to combine their skills and really wanted to deliver their experiences to small and medium-sized businesses at an affordable price point. So one of the things they focused on right from the get-go was how they could stand up an inventory optimization solution for a small to medium business and make it something that could be deployed quickly. So typically, if you're working with a different product, you might find that it could take 3 to 4 months to go ahead and do this. Believe it or not, their record for implementation is 9 minutes. 9, I kid you not. So a lot of companies that aren't using Sage Inventory Advisor, they're still trying to manage their inventory through various Excel spreadsheets, and they probably invest days per month trying to analyze data to get a picture of what's going on. So the idea of Sage Inventory Advisor is that it would do all of that for you. So in the product itself, firstly, you'll notice that every screen within Sage Inventory Advisor, or it's always visible to you, delivers this status bar that shows you when your data was last updated, who you're logged in as, and the fact that you can go ahead and click through to take a tour of the product. The title bar, as we call it, allows you to go ahead and see different options as regards the units that are displayed. So in this particular case, I'm looking at my inventory over the last several days. If I want to change that instantaneously, think how long it would take you to do this in Excel. I can go ahead and click on weeks, and boom, there within about a second or two, I've immediately changed all of these different queries to be able to go ahead and have a look at my inventory over the last several weeks. In addition to that, I can just look at all of my inventory, or I can go ahead and focus on a subsection of it. So rather than looking at all my inventory, I could go ahead and have a look at just my finished goods. And again, if there were data for that, then it would go ahead and immediately update all of my dashboards in one go to do that. Similarly, when I'm working, I can go ahead and choose whether I'm looking at one location or whether I'm looking at the total of the entire company. So by clicking on this avatar, I'm able to go ahead and set that this is my default location. So locations, when I set this, this actually then propagates through to both the dashboard, the overall view where my inventory is, and also to my forecasting tab. But what I can do within Sage Inventory Advisor is I can actually go ahead and take this one step further with my locations. So rather than managing inventory on a location by location basis, if I am a regional purchaser or I'm a regional inventory planner, I can actually go ahead and set up regionalization of my inventory. And so you can see right here that we have certain inventory that's at customer locations. We have our own remote locations as well. And then each of these rolls up collectively to different regions within the organization. So I have Los Angeles location that's a part of my total, and I also have my central warehouse and so on and so forth. So you can build an unlimited number of relationships here between your locations as to how you want to be able to effectively manage your inventory. Throughout the product, we have what we call filters. So up in the top left-hand corner here, I've just clicked through on the excess inventory report real quick. And so in, again, almost no time at all, I've gone from looking at my dashboard, giving me a summary of the products, to actually get into the direct detail that goes and populates that dashboard. And I have the ability to filter this to say that I have all of these standard filters that are characteristics of the products that are showing on here. And I can also go ahead and add my own characteristics as well, that maybe I've added optional fields to my inventory because I run my business different than some other people. So right now you'll see I've got about 2,500 products that are showing in this report. If I change this and say I only want to look at non-stocked products, then in a matter of a second, when I go ahead and apply this filter, you'll notice that my data immediately refreshes, and now I'm only working with about half of that number. So extremely easy to be able to go ahead and work on that. Just gonna pop back to my dashboard real quick. So when we're looking at this dashboard, it's really designed into two main sections at the top and then some additional widgets at the bottom that we'll talk about as well. So when I'm looking at my inventory management, I absolutely care about what inventory I have on right hand right now. So I currently have $34 million of inventory on hand, and my model, which is a number of algorithms and programs that are built into Inventory Advisor out of the box, are recommending that based on the way that I do my business, that would be historical data, forecast data, and other items that are already in there, that I should be running on my inventory levels more $11.2 million. So for this particular organization, I've got a $23 million opportunity to manage my inventory much better. And believe it or not, that is pretty typical of the experiences that people get with Sage Inventory Advisor. I worked very closely with a client in Texas that is a distributor, and they implemented Sage Inventory Advisor, and they were actually able to reduce their inventory levels by about half, and all of that tied up capital was released back to the business, which was particularly important to them since they were owned by venture capitalists and wanted to be able to go ahead and turn the business on to the next owner. So in terms of the navigation of the product, whenever we go ahead and hover over something, you'll notice that there's a tooltip. So in this particular case, instead of having an unfriendly code that maybe doesn't mean anything to me, when I hover over it, it tells me exactly what that product is. There are helpful videos that are built into the product. So whenever we hang over a question mark, it enables us to watch a video tutorial or to be able to print out help that would go ahead and tell us what that particular section is about. And of course, what would be what would otherwise be missing would be the ability for us to be able to add our own comments in these comment bubbles. And so if I'm trying to manage my inventory more effectively, I obviously want to reduce my excess inventory, which is approaching 10 million. And right now I've got purchase orders out there for 6.7 million, which would go ahead and potentially give me an excess problem if they were to be placed. So I want to try to reduce my inventory whilst all the while going ahead and doing a good job of servicing my customers. So the next set of 3 widgets talks specifically about how we're doing with our customer service and our customer fulfillment. So our fill rate talks to what orders we've received from customers and to what extent we can actually go ahead and deliver against those orders. So our target is 95%, but you can see that right now as an organization, we're only running at 84.32%. Some of the reasons that could be driving these fill rates, of course, are because we've got stock outs, or we're going to have a stock out in the future if we don't take some other action to be able to go ahead and prevent us running out of stock. And then the last 3 things at the bottom, when inventory is first onboarded, of course, there isn't enough data to be able to go ahead and support decision-making with it. So those are deemed to be new items. And we have a handy-dandy little snapshot that shows exactly where we are with regards to our inventory management. So out of our total holding of inventory, we're okay in terms of how we're managing 2.7 million of that. But as we spoke to here, we've actually got 9.9 million that's excess. And so that's just translated down the bottom so that we have a snapshot on how we're doing things. And of course, there's always subjectivity to the data that's being brought in. So Sage Inventory Advisor works very hard to understand all of the various data that's being fed into it from Sage 300 and to go ahead and say, okay, I believe that in terms of purity, my stock numbers are probably 97%. And so it aggregates these, gives us a weighted average, and says that about 95% accuracy overall with the underlying data. That doesn't mean that there's a data problem, but there might be some items where we have some orders that no longer have a customer associated with them, the customer's been made inactive, or inventory items that are being included, etc. in that. So let's go ahead and have a look at a particular item and see how we use this tool to manage a particular item. So when I click through on this, again, immediately out of the box functionality from Sage Inventory Advisor, it brings in the information about our item. So it brings in the average cost information of the product. You guys can read the screen equally as well as me, so I'm not going to go through all of this data that comes in. I'm going to stop and explain a little bit about this 9 box, as we call it. So a lot of people, when they're looking at their inventory, they may have a model which looks at the sales of a particular item, and they feel that they've got a good handle on the sales volume that there has been for any particular inventory item. But oftentimes what's missing is actually the velocity of those sales. So you may have sold a particular item which is very expensive, but you may have only sold it 1 time in the last year. So this 2-dimensional view of your inventory explains to us that this is an A-level or a high-level product in terms of sales value, but that it's only got medium turnover. So we're selling a moderate amount, and the algorithm on that is user customizable. Typically, a value item is somewhere between the first 80%, and then certainly something is the next level would be I think it's about like the next 16% typically, and then the bottom is about the bottom 4%. So it's kind of the 80-20 rule again, where 80% of inventory is making up most of your sales. We can see who is the primary supplier on this, but most importantly, as an inventory optimizer, I'm looking at the section here that tells me exactly what's going on with this item. So typically, this item takes 90 days to come from my vendor. And ordinarily, I want to keep 26 days of stock in hand. Historically, that's been what my sales performance has told me I need to keep before I go ahead and order something again. So those two factors together tell me that I need to go ahead and have a reorder point at 116 days. Replenishment cycle, this is a term that many people who are distributors don't really think about. If you have a centralized purchasing function, there's time for the purchase order to go through the approval process, to get up to that centralized purchasing unit, to be delivered from your vendor back to that central warehouse, and then to be distributed back to you. And typically that might take 30 days in this particular example. So the recommendation would be, when you consider all of those factors, which very few people do, that we should actually carry 146 days of inventory. Right now, you can see we've only got 61 days of inventory on stock. And out of that, 16 units have already been allocated. So really, we've only got 59 days worth of stock. And we've got currently 100 days worth of stock that is on purchase order today. Okay, 90 units. And so our stock is actually, we're going to run out of stock based on all of these calculations. So we've got a potential stock out of 30.9 thousand. And so it's recommending that we order 475 of these. So before we do that, of course, we'd want to go ahead and do a sanity check and look at our forecasting. So we can see right now where we are today is exactly right here. So this supports all of the other the data that we've got. We know that during our lead time, we've got activity. And so 30 days hence, we have our lead time. Then we've got our 26-day safety stock window. And we've also got our replenishment cycle to add on to that. So potentially, we're going to have a problem where we stock out. So one of two things is wrong. Either our sales forecast needs to be modified, which we can do right here. So within our inventory product, if we click on amend forecast, it absolutely allows us to be able to go in and we can manually reforecast what our inventory is. And Sage Inventory Advisor almost immediately, as I've shown you with other queries, will then go ahead and reproject what our inventory needs should be. And it will give us a revised suggestion for our purchase orders. So if we're happy that we've done all of those things properly, and then we want to go ahead and generate the purchase orders, we can directly within Sage Inventory Advisor, go to our orders, we can type in our vendor number, and we can go ahead and click on create. And this will feed automatically back into Sage 300. You don't need to do anything. It's part of the infrastructure of the product. We can absolutely go through here and we can generate this purchase order. So these are these 475 units that we were recommending that we should be buying. And you can see the entire list of products that it's recommended that we should buy from this particular vendor. Again, with the snapshot that supports the policy and the demand that we have for that, so that even at the time of making a purchase order, we can do that. And then lastly, it tells us exactly what the value is of this purchase order to that. So we got some idea of financial implications before we do so. And we can download this directly back into Sage 300 from this screen. I'll stop at that point. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I could keep talking about this all day, but that's not the purpose. So let's stop for some questions.
Thanks, Jan. So we are a little bit over time, but we did have some questions that came in, so we'll go ahead and answer them. The first one that came in says, we're a manufacturer, so we stock materials and finished goods. You spoke about sales forecasts, but how would that help me plan my raw material purchases?
That's a good question. So yeah, certainly when you're within the individual item itself, you can look at the item and you'll see over here it's actually got bill of materials built into it as well. So it actually looks at the total demand that there is for the product. So if you're selling a finished good and that item is required or that material is required as a raw material or a component of that finished good, it automatically is included in your stock optimization calculations.
Thanks, Jan. The second one, it says, my suppliers frequently change the part numbers that they provide to me or replace something with an alternate part. How would the system handle that?
Okay. Yeah, in Sage Inventory Advisor, that's actually called supersession. So up here, if I go in and look at my settings, I've got a whole screen that talks about supersessions. So what you can do with that is it allows you to go ahead and use your historic information. If somebody has replaced a particular product that used to be made of one material with another one that is still a suitable replacement, which is now made of a different material, perhaps it's more environmentally friendly or something like that, you can include the consumption of both the old product and the new product together through that supersession.
Thank you. And then we have a few more that came in. It says, does SAIA work across companies to provide consolidated dashboards for several companies?
Yes, it can. There's actually a platform that reads into your Sage Inventory Advisor. So the queries that are done for that are basically XML files that are executed against your database, and those can be consolidated into a single instance of Sage Inventory Advisor.
Thank you. And then another question, it says, what version of Sage Inventory Advisor is this? We have a basic included, but aren't using it.
So everybody is on the same version of Sage Inventory Advisor. It is a cloud product. They keep it updated based on what are the latest releases. So everybody is entitled to the latest release. You're absolutely right. If you're on subscription with Sage, you do have a basic version of Sage Inventory Advisor included with that. We can certainly help you leverage the most out of that. But I hope that answers it. Everybody is on the latest release.
Perfect. And then the last question that came in says, will a recording of this webinar be available? And I can answer this. Yes, we do post this series on our YouTube channel, but I strongly advise to reach out to your account manager. We usually have them up a day or two after the webinar presentation, so be sure to check in with them. And that's all the questions we have for today, so I'll go ahead and wrap up as well. If you guys do have any more questions, you can reach out to us at am@acumenfl.com, or you can always give us a call at 407-965-2411. Be sure to follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook.